It was a hot summer's day when passengers prepared to disembark from an international flight that had just arrived and landed in Tokyo's Haneda airport. Routinely, they made sure to have their passports in hand, ready to be viewed and stamped by custom officials before being allowed into the country. Among these individuals was what was described to be a standard-looking businessman in business attire who appeared to be in his late 30s, tall, and of Caucasian descent. However, while nothing was noted to be distinguishable about him or his attire, what appeared on his passport was. While his passport looked genuine, custom officers soon noted that the country registered as his place of birth did not exist. This alarmed custom officers, and they ushered the man immediately into an interrogation room where he was questioned repeatedly. Why was he in Tokyo, they asked. For business reasons, he replied. The man gave the name of the company he worked for, and when custom officials investigated this company, they found that while it did exist, when calling to inquire about the individual, they had no knowledge of him. The hotel he claimed to be staying at and had reservations to reported that they had no such booking for this man. The man, though, was able to provide copious amounts of documentation to prove both bookings. Frustrated and running out of leads, they asked the man to point to where Taured was on a world map. He immediately points his finger towards the Principality of Andorra, but becomes angry and confused when no such place as Taured was evident. He adds that he has never heard of Andorra and can't understand why his homeland isn't there when it should be, as according to him, it had existed for more than 1,000 years. Custom officials were baffled. In the man's possession, they found various European currencies, while his passport had been stamped by many airports around the globe, including previous visits to Tokyo. Wanting to further investigate, the following day they arranged for the individual to be placed in a local hotel, choosing a room as high as possible with only one entrance and exit, and placed 2 guards outside to avoid the individual escaping at any point during the night. The next day, officials visited his hotel room to escort the man back for further interrogation, which is when the mystery seemed to deepen, only to find the individual and all his possessions gone. Now, we're left to decipher the situation. Was this just a hoax, or did the Japanese TSA encounter an interdimensional traveler? The first, and the most outlandish, was that this individual was the unfortunate victim of a dimension jump. What does this mean? This means that people believe that the man was on the same plane, but in his parallel universe, and unfortunately walked into a different dimension when exiting, that is, our dimension. The theory then concludes that while in his hotel room, the businessman managed to jump back into his own dimension, which is why the individual was able to have vanished from the high-up guarded hotel room. For this video, I investigated briefly the possibility and causes of dimension jumping, or DJ for short, even finding a course on how to do this. Hear me out. Dimension jumping is a relatively new, predominantly online phenomenon, found in YouTube tutorial videos and on a Reddit page with over 60,000 members. An online subculture claims it's discovered the route into alternate states of reality by different methods if you are actively trying to dimension jump, while others state that accidentally dimension jumping is a possibility also. The core idea behind dimension jumping is that several universes exist besides our own, such as the parallel, daughter, and bubble universes, has long been explored in scientific circles. These are just 3 out of 5 examples of multiverses. The theory of parallel universes is not a new concept. The term multiverse has been used as early as 1895. But let's get into some of the multiverses that I've mentioned, just to give you an idea of what scientists believe and refer to. The many worlds theory proposed by Hugh Everett in the 1950s suggests that the parallel universe theory is described as a self-contained separate world, universe, or reality coexisting with the real world. The daughter universe theory is based instead on quantum mechanics. He theorized that the universe creates a copy of itself for every possible outcome of a situation to occur. The bubble universe is an idea that after the Big Bang, the universe expanded by inflating like a balloon. The theory suggests that some parts of the universe stopped inflating while others continued, resulting in bubble universes that may have completely different laws of physics. According to the theory, our universe has stopped inflating, which is why we have stars and galaxies. For example, the late Professor Stephen Hawking dedicated his final days to writing a research paper that addresses the multiverse theory he first proposed in the 1980s. Submitted 10 days before he died in 2018, Hawking theorized that if the Big Bang created several universes alongside our own, they'd be similar to ours and share the same law of physics. Another more likely possibility is that the airport employees who attended to him did not understand French or the Catalan language and had never heard of Andorra. So he could have gone on Terre d'Andorra and mistaken it for Taured. I suspect the whole story is based on errors made by the employees at the airport, and they were dealing very ineptly with an Andorran. The man from Taured who vanished so mysteriously from the hotel probably decided to visit some other facility in Japan where the employees could actually speak and understand French. A more prominent theory has many stating that the man from Taured was actually a real individual named John Allen Kutcher Zegras. In October 1959, John Zegras, then 36, was recorded to have entered Japan with his Korean wife. 3 months later, he was arrested for identity fraud. His passport contained stamps of Japanese embassies in different East Asian countries, but this was later determined to be counterfeit. On August 10, 1960, Mr. Zegras was sentenced to 1 year in prison by the Tokyo District Court. After his release, Mr. Zegras was deported from Japan to Hong Kong, where he reportedly did arrive and enter the region, and as far as we know, lived out the rest of his life there. So how may this story have led to the well-known urban legend of the Man from Taured? Well, on the 15th of August 1960, in an issue of the Province, the story was told, but with some alterations. The newspaper stated in an article titled Man with His Own Country that John Zegras had claimed to carry a passport issued at Tamanrasset, the capital of Taured, south of the Sahara. Taured was likely Tuareg misspelt. How this was concluded, I have no idea, but Tamanrasset is an actual province in Algeria, and Tuareg being a large ethnic Islamic African group that principally inhabit the Sahara. This case was mentioned in the 1964 books by Jacques Bergier, and according to his version, a person from Taured, a country in East Africa, was arrested in 1954 in Japan during passport checks. The case in question was even mentioned in the House of Commons as part of a debate on border control measures in 1960. During the debate, Robert Matthew, MP, claimed that Mr. Zegras was facing prosecution in Japan after attempting to enter the country using a passport in a language unknown, which was stated to have been issued in Tamanrasset, the capital of the independent sovereign state of Taured. So it is concluded in this theory that many minor alterations and some misinformation had individuals weaving a story about an interdimensional man. Surprisingly, misplaced travelers such as the businessman from Taured have appeared on many other occasions. In 1851, a man was found wandering Frankfurt an der Oder in northeast Germany who claimed he was from a country called Laxaria on the continent of Sacria. Another young man who spoke a completely unrecognizable language was caught stealing a loaf of bread in Paris in 1905. He said he was from Lisbia, which authorities assumed was Lisbon or Lisboa in Portuguese. Yet his language was not Portuguese, nor did he recognize a map of Portugal as his homeland. This legend has made its way into the media in various forms. It's true that this strange event was first published before the internet was a major factor in paranormal myth-making. The Directory of Possibilities was first published in 1981, 27 years after the 1954 event, and is essentially a collection of short articles on varying claim types of paranormal events. The entry that concerns this story was called Appearing People, written by Paul Begg, but was just one sentence long. And in 1954, a passport check in Japan is alleged to have produced a man with papers issued by the nation of Taured. Mr. Begg gave no sources for his article. In 1999, Tom Slemon's book called Strange But True, Mysterious and Bizarre People was published. Mr. Slemon covers the story in just one paragraph. There have been many reports of visitors from other planets dropping in on Earth. In 1954, the Japanese authorities detained a man trying to enter the country with a passport that revealed he was from an unheard-of country named Taured. A thorough check was made by the customs officials to see if there was such a place anywhere on Earth, but they drew a blank. The stranger refused to throw light on the whereabouts of the mysterious nation of Taured and quickly left Japan. Mr. Slemon also gave no sources for his article. We see Brian W. Lasper, who writes the story, which was published on the 4th of December 2015, named The Man From Taured, while author Jeremy Bates wrote The Man From Taured, a breakneck mystery thriller published on the 1st of January 2020. There is also a movie which was released in 2015 titled The Man From Taured, produced and directed by Nick Christensen, which can even be found on YouTube today. But what do we know for sure? The facts are, at some point in the 1950s, a man tried to enter Japan through Haneda Airport, and he was not successful. Being the 50s, proper and thorough documentation did not take place, or it being so long ago, the documents have been misplaced since then. He had a legitimate looking passport which contained entry stamps to many other European countries. This passport stated his place of birth as being a country that did not exist. Is this enough to prove the man traveled from one dimension to another? Is this enough to prove the man was a real person and an urban legend was made from this story? The question I pose, and one I will bring up many times in future videos, is it not far more interesting to believe?